assists in there.
Great game. 50 seconds to go. Hurts. Deep shot. Hauled in, Devontae.
Sure.
Before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
He's just picking the big guys. Jordan Mailata, he's huge. He'll be good later on. Josh Sweat, he's tall as hell and strong. Let's get him. We'll figure him out. It's working.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM, only on DSM Media. We're live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Make sure you're sharing it out, liking, following. Click that subscribe button on YouTube. The road to 500 continues. We did not get to 500 today. You guys do not see me shave my beard. It's just not going to happen. It's going to stay for a little bit longer. I'm joined, as I have been all of last week and this week, by my guest co-host, Jason Voorhees. What's up, buddy? How you doing today?
What's up, man? First and foremost, I want to wish you a happy birthday, Phil.
Thank you very much. That is correct. Today is my birthday. I am old as hell. It's okay. We all get old. I'm rocking. My wife surprised me with, she couldn't find a Sixers City edition, but my new Sixers hoodie here surprised me, had it shipped somewhere else so I wouldn't see it in the mail or anything like that.
That's nice.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited for today. Got a long day planned out of doing nothing and relaxing.
I'm telling you, man, you have the best idea for vacation. Like, to me, the ideal vacation is, whether it's the Poconos, just getting away from all the chaos that we live in especially in the East Coast. I mean, I'm sure the West Coast is the same,
Absolutely.
California.
Like the chaos in general. It's just insane. We deal with as sports, people, on Twitter with the chaos on there on a daily basis. Owning a pizza shop, I deal with it on a daily basis as well. Yesterday, one of the community boards in Kennett Square where my pizza shop's located, I've made a post about now hiring, because just like every restaurant in America, I'm short-staffed, not enough employees. Just put a post out there, on the community page, now hiring X, Y, and Z. Oh, a typical now hiring post. And instantly underneath, the first comment underneath it was some person, I've never been in this establishment, but I heard X, Y, and Z about how awful it is. And they just did this whole slander post, but clearly said the first line that they'd never been in my establishment before. And I'm like, seriously. So I politely responded. And then as I politely responded, it felt great because I had 15, 20 regular customers underneath it commenting, but just getting away from all that. It's just so nice.
I hear you, man.
As always, Trending in the AM is brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT in below-the-waist maintenance. Make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. Use promo code TRENDING, name of the show right above my head there, TRENDING, and get you 20% off and free shipping. And lets them know that the beard sent you, so make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. The man in your life will not be disappointed. So, Jason, we got lots to talk about today on this episode of Trending in the AM. We got to talk Sixers, of course. I want to talk Flyers because obviously you're my Flyers guy. Didn't have you on yesterday, so we didn't really talk Flyers yesterday. So we got to get into Flyers. And then it's time. The bye week is over. It's time to start the process of talking Eagles, Washington, and this huge 4-game stretch that's coming up for the Eagles. So let's dive right in. Let's talk Sixers. Sixers last night, after beating Golden State on Saturday, huge, one of the biggest wins of the year. All the energy coming off the team on, Saturday, just completely flopped last night against Memphis. 126-91, complete and total shellacking. They just got completely crushed. I know Seth Curry and Joel Embiid were late scratches from the game. Joel for ribs, Seth, I forget what, I think it was neck or back issue. It is what it is. Doc, after the game, said you kind of just got to burn the tape and not even worry about it and just write it off. Is that a good way to handle this? Or can you still learn something from last night? Because, it's not like – it was just a complete and total failure last night.
Well, here's the deal. We've talked about this. Actually, I believe we talked about it this past Friday.
Yeah.
When we talked a lot about the Sixers, about this team being a little bit in trouble because of the fact that it has to rely so much on Joel Embiid to win. And I'm not saying that, that they can't win without Joel Embiid, but it seems to me like when Joel is out, although it wasn't that way early in the season when he first went out, they actually seemed to kind of rally around. But last night, to me, was an example of how they just kind of I don't want to say shit the bed, but I guess it's kind of this,
I mean, they
got
did
blown
shit
out.
the bed. Yeah, they
got
did.
blown out. So
Yeah.
now I know.
But see, I hate when coaches just say the game was such a bad game, we're just going to forget about it. And I understand you don't want to rehash a game that bad, but there's still things that are happening over and over again. And I know, again, no Curry and Embiid, and I want to touch on that combo in a second. But I mean, they were 4 of 22 shooting from deep. I mean, you're not going to win a basketball game when you shoot 18% from three. But that's a problem there because Curry's your best 3-point shooter, him out of the lineup. But you just go down at 0 for 2, Tobias Harris, Korkmaz 0 for 3, Danny Green 0 for 2, Niang 0 for 3, Isaiah Joe 0 for 2. I mean, when you only have one elite player in Joel Embiid, when Seth Curry, let's be honest, is actually your number 2 player on this team, not by pay, but let's say, is it crazy to say that he's more important offensively than Tobias Harris? And both of those guys, your 2 best scoring options, are out. There are slim chances of winning, but the depth of this team outside those 2 is so insanely low.
But and then almost, it's funny because I look at a guy like Maxey, who we've been talking about how he struggled since Embiid came back.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, Embiid's out, and Maxey actually has a very good game.
Yeah,
very
23
solid
points,
game.
7 assists.
I mean,
he had a couple turnovers, which is very unlike him. He had 3 turnovers. But outside of that, I mean, again, it's really odd how he performs so much better without Joel than with Joel. And I think that's a product of him being a young 21-year-old kid. His best opportunities have come when Joel was out. So he hasn't actually had enough time to learn to be that elite player yet next to another elite player. So that's something that can come in time. But I think that's why when you trade eventually Ben Simmons, which we're going to talk about new rumors that are coming along about Ben Simmons in a second, that you want a guard, a starting guard. I brought up Goran Dragic a while ago as part of a deal with the Raptors. You need an elite or at least a veteran point guard to start because Maxey should be coming off the bench and running that second unit. That second unit when Joel is on the bench with Andre Drummond, he would be a lot more effective in that second unit.
Speaking of Andre Drummond, not to get off the subject, but how about that slam that he had?
I actually didn't watch much of the game because, I'm far enough away from Philly that, Comcast Sports Center, NBC Sports Philadelphia is actually not available up here. I tried to watch some of it on the laptop last night, but yeah, no, I didn't actually see it.
He apparently had a dunk of all dunks.
That's all Andre Drummond is good for is dunks. That's his whole offensive arsenal. If he can't reach the rim, he can't make the basket in. So, are you ready? I know Saturday we were all flying high because of the win against Golden State, but we had a full team. It was only like the 4th game all season. We had our full 10 guys available to play. But then you lose 2 of those guys and you just get crushed by Memphis. We're now 15-13. We got some more hard games. We got the Heat. We got the Nets, 2 losable games. When and at one point do you hit the panic button with this team? And I know Scotty's going to chime in at some point, or Scotty will say on his show that, Joel, we haven't had everybody together. He's going to bring up all these reasons not to panic yet. But I want to panic a little bit about the depth of this team.
Well, I think you got to look at it both ways. I mean, I think you don't want to panic because Joel is there. However, right. I think this shows
Joel is not always there. And
that I agree with you. I agree that our depth is very slim, and I think. See, it's so hard right now because you haven't made the trade with Simmons. If we were going to be promised, okay, yes, Ben Simmons will be shipped out by X date, and we're going to get this kind of player back, I think you'd have a better idea of what this team is going to look like. Right now, we kind of have no idea what this team's going to be. It could actually really change a lot. Like you were saying, you heard the rumors about Tobias. Like if they ship out Tobias and Simmons, obviously this team's going to be different.
Yeah.
So,
but here's my concern, because this year, we're 28 games into an 82-game season. There's a lot of time left technically. But if you look back at NBA history, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but I did do this last year on a podcast. I discussed this, is that teams that make major moves, major trades, Ben Simmons for Dame Lillard, let's just throw that out there. Those teams that make those kind of trades mid-season, they don't win titles till the following season or make deep runs till the following season. Because when you take two alpha males from two different teams and put them together, it takes time for them to adjust, to learn to play together. They don't instantly just come together and become these superstar tandems or trios or whatever you want to call it. So my concern is we're risking right now. The longer Daryl Morey lets this go, we're risking another year of Joel Embiid's prime, another year where we should be contending and are not, and that's a concern for me.
I mean, it's definitely a concern because we know that window is short, and knowing that, it's just frustrating. Obviously, we obviously cover the team, but we're all fans. I mean, I know you like basketball is one of your main loves. I know Scotty. I talk to him all the time, and he said that basketball is his number one. Like we all want this team to do well, and it's like we have basically a generational player in Embiid. I mean, he's pretty much a generational player. If he wasn't hurt all the time, I would say, he could. You could already put him in the ranks of the top centers of all time. I mean,
absolutely agree.
He's that dominant of a player.
He's a generational talent that just happens to be 7'2", 285. So that just means he's going to have some injury issues, going forward, for his whole career. Can we touch on the fact that I thought about this during the Golden State game, and I've been thinking about it a little bit, off and on. I'm a huge Tobias Harris fan. Don't get me wrong. He's one of my favorite players, one of the most underappreciated players in the league. But he's a great third star on this team because of financials and because of his contract. He's supposed to be the second star. But I have more confidence in Curry as a go-to scorer than Tobias. And it's almost like the offense, and you could see this when you watch it, the offense is run through Joel and Curry, not Joel and Tobias. Tobias gets his shots, when he wants them and all. But losing Curry for a game is almost worse than losing Tobias Harris for a game because Curry goes and gets his own shots. Curry isn't the greatest defender, but Curry is a shot maker. And there is no better deal in the NBA than the fact that this year and next year, Seth Curry makes $8.5 million a year. And that doesn't even count the fact that all we had to trade was Josh Richardson to get him. So the fact that Seth Curry makes $8.5 million and is your second best scoring option on this team, I mean, that's crazy to me to think.
But that was absolutely a steal of a trade. I mean, Richardson to me is like a middling guy.
I actually liked him, but I was disappointed by him because I thought he was better than he was when he came over from Miami.
Well, I think that's part of the problem. Like he wasn't really, we didn't know because of the team that he played on. He wasn't like part of it. Hard to kind of get a gauge on it, but to get Curry and as you said, the important thing is that contract, that allow, and he's become, like you said, he's almost like he is the number two because,
if you watch a game closely, when they're on the court together, when the ball comes up, the offense is run between Curry and Embiid. And while Tobias takes more shots than Curry, he just gets his shots. He's just a spot up shooter and he does his own thing. He's an ISO player. He's a poor man's Paul George who runs the same style where he just gets the ball and does his thing in the wing when he's got space. Whereas Curry and Embiid are running plays together. They're trying to have a set offensive scheme with the two of them. Obviously, lots more Ben Simmons rumors started yesterday. Now there's a new list of teams that are interested. New Orleans is interested, which I would love Brandon Ingram. Let's just fix that trade, that draft mistake now. Get Brandon Ingram playing the 3 for us. The Lakers are obviously now in the mix as somebody that are interested in Ben Simmons. The Knicks interested in Ben Simmons. Well, first off, the Knicks, and also I could throw the Celtics in that conversation in this question for you, because we've heard the rumors of Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons, which would be an amazing trade for the Sixers. Would you be comfortable trading Ben Simmons to a team like the Knicks or Celtics that we play so many times a year, division rivals, just rivals, period, teams that as Philly fans we're bred to hate? Would you have a problem Ben Simmons going to one of those teams?
Absolutely not. I actually welcome it. I think it would be.
You want to be able to bill him every single time he comes to Philly, right?
I think pretty much the whole city would want to. I mean, listen, I'm not. We've talked about it. I'm not about the bullying. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
But with this guy, I mean, it's obvious that he's just not. He's not made up to play for this team. Yep. He's not, and the way that he's handled it. Listen, the Sixers may have handled things wrong themselves too, but the bottom line is, anybody that wouldn't want to play with Joel Embiid, to me, is not really thinking things through. Because
it's the same thing with Ben Simmons. That's why all of a sudden now, and it's a weird rule. So tomorrow, December 15th, I confirmed. I thought it was today. It's tomorrow, December 15th, is the day players that signed off-season contracts can be traded. So it's a really weird rule for people that don't know the NBA's ins and out. If you sign a contract in an off-season, a new contract, like we signed, who did we sign? Andre Drummond. We signed him this off-season. We could not trade him until December 15th. Okay. Players that were already on contracts, if we had traded for Andre Drummond, he could be traded already. But because we signed him, tomorrow is the day that he could be traded. I'm just using that as an example. So there's a lot of players out there that signed contracts this offseason that now the teams are regretting them, whatever it may be. So tomorrow's a key day to think of, because now you're going to see a lot more rumors happening, a lot more things happening on the Ben Simmons front. But as you continue to go along this season, you see more and more players speaking out that they'd want to play with Ben Simmons, just like, Joel Embiid. And that just goes to show that, yes, Ben Simmons has his issues here in Philly. Him and Joel Embiid have had issues as teammates, et cetera, but he's still an elite talent, and there's still a market for him. And Daryl Morey has done the right thing by
not selling,
waiting, and not settling. And now you see more and more teams jumping in the Ben Simmons sweepstakes. And the one thing that I'll pass it over to you on that topic there is that I've said it over and over again since the offseason, most likely, unless it was a Ben Simmons for Dame Lillard or Ben Simmons for Bradley Beal trade, where we're giving up more because we're getting back that elite score, no Ben Simmons trade will happen straight up team for team. There's going to be 3 or 4 team complex deal. You look at somebody like the Lakers. The Lakers do not have the return players. If they want Ben Simmons, they got to get a 3rd or 4th team. The Knicks, what are we going to do? Get Julius Randle back? They're not going to do that kind of that. That's not a trade that the Knicks aren't going to give up that player. They don't have the player that we would want in return that would be an equal value. So again, a 3rd team involved. New Orleans, maybe you get the Brandon Ingram, but if they don't want to move on from Brandon Ingram, you're going to have to get a 3rd team involved. So there's a lot of teams out there. Dallas Mavericks, they've been linked. That Luka Doncic wants to play with Ben Simmons. They're going to need to get a 3rd team involved. So it's something that it's going to continue to drag on, because a 3-team, 4-team trade is very complex and takes a lot of time to build and put together. But I really think that that's the way it goes down, that there's going to be multiple teams involved to make this deal and facilitate this deal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. Like, I agree. I'm happy that, a lot of people I know have been bashing Morey and saying just get a deal done, just trade him.
I mean, I get frustrated and say that from time to time as well.
And I get the frustration of fans, and I get the fact that people are saying, well, he's better. It's better to just get rid of him than have him on the team. Like, it's addition by subtraction.
Right.
But I also agree that, a lot of people are losing sight of the fact that since Simmons has not been in this lineup, our defense has been a lot worse. I mean,
absolutely,
it's fairly evident. I mean, last night's game's a perfect example. Like, even like, had Ben Simmons been in that game, would we have won? Not necessarily, but we definitely would not have got blown out like that. And I think, knowing the fact that Simmons is a superstar talent, whether he's actually reached that peak or not, obviously he's not reached it on the offensive side of the ball. Right. But just knowing that to me means that it's better to wait it out because, like you said, more and more teams are starting to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that maybe were on the cusp that maybe are doing better than they thought might say, wow, we could get a Ben Simmons and make our defense, that much better. It makes perfect sense. And like you said, I don't see it being a 1-for-1 either. I think most of the teams don't have, there's not too many teams that have really what we'd want. Unless
there's a few. The Kings have multiple assets that they could trade, whether it's Fox or Heald, Hal Burton, Harrison Barnes. You've got Portland. They got CJ McCollum. They got Dame Lillard. They've got Robert Covington, Simons. They've got guys, but there's very few teams like that, and that's why it's going to be Indiana. Brogdon, LeVert, or I forget the other guy, the rookie. They've got that. Scotty was talking about yesterday. There are options, but most likely because Daryl Morey. Let's be honest. I mean, he's made a lot of big time trades. When he was with the Rockets, he traded away. James Harden. He's made moves and major moves in his career. So this is not his first time trying to make a move for a superstar player. So, we have to have faith in him and what he's doing. But there also has to be, to an extent, a mental deadline. We can't wait till February 10th and let this team continue hanging around 500 because then, come playoff time, there's just got to not be enough time for it to, gel as a team. So, there's that, and we'll see how it goes. I would love it to happen sooner rather than later.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just to know who we're getting and just to be able to actually focus on okay, this is our team down the stretch.
Right.
Let's go, let's get it. That's where I'm at.
I agree with you 100% on that. All right, so give me 1 second here. Let's change that overlay. What's up with the Flyers? So the last time we talked Flyers, it was going into the Flyers-Devils game, and we had a 5-game stretch. We talked about the Devils, the Knights, the Coyotes, the Devils, and the Canadiens. And you said they would win against the Devils that first game, and that might be the only win of that 5-game stretch. Well, let's look back. That 3 of those games have happened so far. They lost to the Devils to get their, what was that, their 10th loss in a row, I believe that was?
Yes.
And then they've gone on to now beat the Vegas Golden Knights and the Coyotes. Coyotes, worst team in the NHL, so no surprise there, but beating Vegas. So all of a sudden now they've won 2 games in a row. They got the Devils again tonight. Is all of a sudden, was the coach firing enough of a wake-up call that Chuck Fletcher is now going to just tweak this team and continue trying to make the playoffs, which is probably the wrong thing to do? Or is this just a little blip on the radar of a few wins and, we're going to still see I don't want to call it the major blow up, but the trading of these veteran players to try to focus on the future, not this year?
It's a great question. I mean, where I stand on it.
Yeah, I know where you stand. So I don't want your opinion on what they should do.
Yeah,
I want you to give me your opinion on what you think is going in Chuck Fletcher's mind right now.
Dude, you're reading my mind. You read my mind on all these shows. It's
I'm too damn good of a host. I know exactly what my guests are thinking.
So yes, my opinion differs from what I actually think is going to happen. I think you just hit it on the head. I think a coaching change will always make a little bit of a difference as far as a wake-up call. Because if it doesn't, then there's something truly wrong with every athlete on this team. I mean, you could tell that, obviously it's kind of lit a fire under some of the guys. James Van Rieden's was friggin' non-existent, and now he scored 3 goals in the last 2 games.
Right.
Guys even Giroux has picked it up. So to me, I think the problem with it is I think it's exactly what's going to happen. I think Chuck Fletcher is going to say, oh, well, the team's starting to pull it around. Let's make some tweaks and try to make the playoffs. But the bottom line is we know that the Flyers are not good enough right now as far as compared to the elite talent in the league. I will say it's nice to see a change, obviously, and have something kind of good to talk about, because it's been pretty much.
So how did they beat Vegas?
To even be able to have this show today,
the Vegas Golden Knights are an elite. No, I don't know if I want to say elite. They've been elite. They've made cups in the recency, few years. They're a really good team. I think they were 16-10, something about there. When we played them this past weekend, how did they beat a team? What was different all of a sudden, because that's where they snapped the losing streak. What happened, like, to make them play well that game? What did the coach do, or what did the team do differently all of a sudden? Because that was a game that they clearly should have lost based off of, recent history. And not even recent history, a 10 game, which is like a month's worth of hockey, history.
Well, for first things first, what they did differently was they actually scored on the power play.
I thought you were just going to say they scored goals. I thought you were going to pull a Booger McFarland. They scored more goals than the other team. That's how they won.
Well, they scored 4 goals, which is more, is 2 more than probably their average of the last 20 games. Because I think they've been averaging under 2 goals a game scored. So
0, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 0, 2. Yeah, a lot.
They were
of
averaging around less than 2 goals a game. So they scored 4 goals, but they also scored 2 power play goals, which we've talked about the ineptitude on the power play. And of course, like, just seeing that change in itself is going to help a team, because when you're not scoring on the power play on the man advantage, your team starts to get, press, and you get to the point where a lot of times it could be the difference in winning and losing a game is how you play on that special teams unit. Obviously, in that game, Carter Hart played out of his mind. If you actually watch the game, or you haven't, go back and watch it, because Carter Hart was absolutely a magician. I mean, he stopped 41 of 44 shots. Now, once again, the defense is still giving up a lot of shots, but when Carter Hart is on his game, he can, I don't want to say stop the bleeding, but he can, kind of carry the team here and there. But like I said, you can't expect it all the time, or else it's going to fall apart. And that's where the difference is. Like, we need to see this defense turn it around, because I still haven't saw that. They gave up 44 shots against the Knights. And then the next night, against arguably the worst team in the league, they gave up 32 shots, which is much better, but still not good. They did also, I believe, go 1 for 3 on the power play in that game. So they actually had a power play goal in 2 games in a row. And I haven't done my homework to go back, but I'd probably be lucky to say that they haven't done that maybe all year, or maybe at least back to where in the first 2 weeks of the season, when they were, firing on all cylinders. So to actually be able to score in the power play two games in a row right now is like a win.
Absolutely agree. So again, starting back with that Devils game where we got shut out 3-0, we had done a 5-game stretch. You had said they were going to go 1-4 in that stretch. They're obviously 2-1 now. You got the Devils tonight, actually, and then the Canadians on Friday or Thursday. So, going forward, do they keep this momentum going, or do you think that's just a 2-game thing and we're going to see them flounder a little bit more again?
No, like I said, watching them these past few games, I've definitely noticed a change. I mean, obviously the first game, they lost to Colorado,
right,
7-5, and that was like the first game, and you thought, some people were like, maybe they'll
but that firing happened that day. That's kind of an understanding. You're kind of thrust into the role of head coach like that, and
Plus, it was Colorado. Like, Colorado is like upper echelon,
right? Exactly
level. Like, one of the best in the West. So, not really looking at that game. If you looked at the next 3 game samples, obviously they got shut out against the Devils. Obviously, I didn't like that, but they did play better defensively in that game. They only gave up 25 shots. So their defense played better. They just didn't put the puck in the net. So if you want my honest opinion, I think they're doing better than I thought they were going to do. Because I've been so negative, and sometimes it's just because I'm so and we know. I mean, we're both from the same era. Like, it's just getting so frustrating to see the same thing over and over again. But I want this team to do well. I want them to win. I do think that they can carry this momentum over a little bit. They're not playing top-level teams. So I think now's the time maybe to try to gain some ground. Do I think they're going to get back in it? Do I think they should? I don't. I don't think it's the right move. I think they still need to blow it up. I think they need major change. But I'm happy with at least seeing that, there's a pulse. Because to me, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. If the Flyers during that stretch, 10 games, were at least had a pulse and they were just losing, it would be a different conversation. AV may never have been fired. Like, the problem is there was just no pulse at all, like nowhere. And it's funny because, everyone's joking around and, there was this big bag push. I'm sure you saw it all.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Like, everyone changing their face to this bag. And I didn't do that, by the way, which maybe I'm an outsider, but I just didn't understand it or see how that was going to change things. But if they want to take, credit for the Flyers changing around, then so be it.
You take credit for Bryce Harper changing in his season around. So somebody's got to take credit for everything. I'm still. Has Bryce Harper reached out to thank you? Yeah,
he hasn't.
He hasn't. Okay, Bryce, you owe Jason a thank you, because before he made his comments about Bryce Harper to after, those stats were night and day. So it's all your thanks to that.
I'll tell you what, Bryce Harper may have made a difference with the Flyers because he actually visited with them the other day. They showed a picture of him with I forget who it was on the ice, and they won the next day. So it might have been.
You also
Bryce
saw
Harper
the video of the dogs on the ice.
The dog shitting. Yes, the dog on the center ice. That was.
All right, let's get the Flyers banner off of there. That's too much Flyers talk for me for today. All right, Eagles bye week. Let's transition here. The bye week's over. We're back at it. Final 4 games of the season are now starting this week. We're going to talk a lot about the Eagles all week long, but let's start it today. And we got great guests tomorrow morning. Britt's Guide to the NFL, great account. We're going to have him on tomorrow morning. So we're going to talk a lot of Eagles and football with him tomorrow morning. But coming out of the bye, it's Washington, division rival. So how do I want to phrase this? The Eagles are in the same position as literally 97 other teams. They're all right there. There's so many 500, just below or just above 500 teams in the NFL. So as an initial thing, what do the Eagles need to do to win this game on Sunday? The first initial thing, not all the keys to victory, just the first thing that pops into your head about this team to win this game on Sunday.
Well, I think they need to continue the same momentum that they've had. I know they lost to the Giants, but we saw an amazing stat line yesterday that came down. I'm trying to pull it up.
Six games in a row of 175 rushing yards. I think it's the first time that's ever happened.
It's the Bears. So
the Bears in 85, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah,
that was a Walter Payton era there.
Yeah, in 85, the Bears had 7-game stretch of 175 yards. Obviously, it was mostly Walter Payton, but the Eagles are the first team to do that since the Bears. And the last time that the Eagles accomplished this feat was 1949.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
So running the football, it's proven fact that it makes it a lot easier to win. I'm not saying it necessarily guarantees a win. They obviously lost against the Giants and they ran for 175 yards. But the point I'm making is I think you're asking for my key. I think Sirianni doesn't really need to change a lot. I think he just needs to keep doing what he's been doing.
Right.
I think what's the bigger question to me is how is Jalen Hurts going to come back from being hurt and then being off last week?
That's an interesting thing, Jalen Hurts, because there's a lot of interesting things with Jalen Hurts to talk about. But obviously, COVID has hit the NFL very hard. I think it was yesterday, 37 players tested positive yesterday. 2 of them on the Eagles. Quez Watkins and practice squad running back Jason Huntley have both been put on the COVID list. So we've talked about it 1,000 times how bad the Eagles, wide receiver core is. And now all of a sudden, your second best wide receiver option, Quez Watkins, which let me preface that by saying he's our second best wide receiver option, but it doesn't mean that he's that great. He's a number 3 or 4 wide receiver on most playoff teams. Taking him out of the equation just goes to show that even more so the running game with Miles Sanders if he's there, Jordan Howard if he's there, Boston Scott, Kenneth, whoever is in the backfield and Jalen Hurts running is going to be so important because now you have Quez Watkins out. Quez Watkins plays about 80-85% of the snaps on any given Sunday. Where are those snaps going to go? Hightower, is he going to get called up? Is a couple of the other practice squad guys going to get cut up? Does that mean Greg Ward or Ortega Whiteside start opposite, of Devontae Smith? Who knows what's going to happen with the wide receivers? So that means Jalen Hurts needs to rely on that run game. Nick Sirianni needs to rely on that run game so much more.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, selfishly, I'd like for Hightower to get at least a shot.
Right.
What could it
He
hurt?
did get a shot earlier this year, and he fumbled or muffed up a kick return and was put on the bench for the rest of the game.
And I understand that, but you know what? Is he the only one? I mean, there's been a lot of people that have made mistakes, and I haven't seen them get benched. Rager, Rager is the perfect example. Like
Rager's a first-round draft pick. Jonathan Hightower.
I get that, pick. But you know what? There comes a point in time where you have to kind of say, you know what? Like, okay, then let's give Hightower a shot. It can't hurt to elevate the guy to play. He doesn't have to start.
Right.
You're still starting Rager and Devonta. I mean, I don't know. I just think John Hightower is a guy that he has that speed. Like,
yeah, it seems like because all right. So I remember bringing up the stats like a few weeks ago on a show how we talk about Rager's low catch percentage. I think he's only catching like 55% of his targets. And we looked back at last year. Hightower only caught 10 passes last year. I think it was like 34 or 35 targets. He had like a 33 or 34%, catch percentage last year. But I remember looking back on last year and being like, it wasn't that he was dropping balls. He was having trouble reading the ball in the air, and he wasn't in the right position to catch the ball a lot of the time. And I really thought that was something that could be coachable, but yet that didn't translate into this year, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that is kind of a good point, Phil. Like, and especially with Sirianni being a wide receiver guru.
Exactly. I thought that you say he has the speed. He's got the. He's a lot. I think he's 6'2" or 6'3". So he's got some size, but.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking Sirianni, but you got to admit that sometimes Sirianni, I mean, obviously he was late to the party with the running game coming in 6 weeks later. Like, and I know I made a comment in our group chat, but in reality, like Sirianni hasn't been perfect. I mean, let's face it, he's been much better, but
he's a rookie head coach that wasn't prepared to be a head coach, in my opinion.
And exactly, and it does take time to learn your player. So all I'm saying is maybe John Hightower is a guy that's kind of slipping through the cracks that really hasn't had a shot. Like sometimes all it takes is injuries and people being out to get a chance. And let's face it, there's guys you can look throughout the NFL of guys that didn't do well on certain teams, and then they go somewhere else and they thrive. Like. I'll give you.
Are you going to bring up who I think you're going to bring up here?
Rasul Douglas.
No, that's not who I thought. We're talking wide receivers. I thought you were going to bring up a wide receiver from last year.
Well, no, I'm talking Rasul Douglas. Like
Rasul Douglas, yeah.
Honestly, like a guy that Jim Schwartz pretty much ruined. Like everyone knew that this guy.
The problem was he was being played he wasn't playing in the right scheme. Jim Schwartz. I don't want to rehash Jim Schwartz. I mean, because I would take him as defensive coordinator over Jonathan Gannon 100 times over. But Jim Schwartz loved to put round holes into square pegs all the time. Hence Maddox on the outside, moving Mills to safety, whatever it was. He was always, I want to do this. I don't care what you guys are good at. This is what we're doing. Go figure it out. And that was his problem there for sure. I still don't think Rasul Douglas is that great of a cornerback. He's just in a team and being put in a position to succeed. And yeah, he's had a couple pick sixes and stuff like that.
I'm not saying he's great, but what I am saying is that
he would help this team.
It shows that coaching can make a difference in a player that may be on the cusp of being better than average.
I mean, I thought you were going to bring up Travis Fulgham as your target, but I got into it with Scotty yesterday about Travis Fulgham. Let's be honest here for a second. Travis Fulgham was the best wide receiver in football for 4 games last year, and that was it. And let's remind you, everybody, that before he was with the Eagles, he was with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He was with Matthew Stafford in Detroit his first year and a half in the league. And if Aaron Rodgers, who gets Lazard and St. Brown, all these random guys that are, okay wide receivers, makes them stars, gets them paid, why he couldn't do it with Travis Fulgham. Travis Fulgham got cut from the Dolphins practice squad yesterday. He still has not played in an NFL game. He's been on I think it was 3 or 4 practice squads this year. Mac Hollins is catching touchdown passes for the Dolphins, which on a side note, Mac Hollins has more touchdowns, more yards receiving, a better average per catch than Jalen Reagor. That's not a dig at Jalen Reagor. That's just a reminder. Mac Hollins is having a better season than Jalen Reagor. Mac Hollins is a standout, player on that team. And Travis Fulgham couldn't even keep on their practice squad. So that just goes to show Travis Fulgham is not the answer for wide receiver for the Eagles. He wasn't, and he isn't. And I just got to remind everybody of that.
Well, I mean, you bring up so many good points. It's hard to argue that. I think, to me, with Travis Fulgham, I think there's other issues there. I think that's the reason why he's not on any team.
Yeah, well,
not necessarily that he can't play.
Podcast.
I heard he's been, there was attitude issues and things like that. And I'm not saying that's not an excuse
Travis
to
Fulgham,
not have somebody.
From what I've heard, Travis Fulgham feels like he is a number one wide receiver on a Super Bowl team. He's not, and doesn't want to put the work in to get to be the number 4 wide
and that's
receiver.
a problem, and
that's
hence the reason why he's not staying on a team. So I agree with you, Phil. I just think I think what Scotty's saying and what I was saying, because I was a big Fulgham guy myself, is that it doesn't happen by accident. Like, he didn't have those kind of games with no talent. Like, he obviously has talent. There's something else there that's holding him back, and that's probably more so the reason why. If you really look back at last year, when he had that stretch, the reason he kind of went by the wayside was how he wanted to bring Alshon back.
Because it's the guy that's getting paid.
The funny thing is,
but that shows
let's
you.
Be real here.
Travis Fulgham would have worked hard when Alshon came back. It's not like Alshon was a superstar at this point in his career. All he had to do was work hard, and he might have gotten those snaps back from Alshon.
How sad is this? And I'm probably going to get flack for this. I would take Alshon on this team right now.
Absolutely.
How sad is that?
Yeah, no, that's not sad.
He's
Alshon's
a big body. Nothing. Like,
he's a big body guy that goes up and gets the 50-50 balls. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's
how could it hurt?
Yeah, exactly. No. So look, we got sidetracked talking Travis Fulgham there. So you're hoping Hightower gets that shot. That's fine. But yeah, I think bring it all back. It comes down to running the ball again and again and again this week. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen Hurts. Obviously, I'm going to be curious to see how he approaches this game. Like, he was hurt, obviously, against the Giants. He wasn't healthy enough to play last game. I mean, I'm assuming emergency-wise he could have played, but, they chose to go with, obviously, Minshew Mania. And,
that's an interesting point. Bringing up Minshew now. So Nick Sirianni, rookie coach, playoff chase is on now. 4 games. If we win 3 of the next 4, I think we get in. I mean, we're right there with Washington at 6-7, Minnesota, San Francisco, Atlanta. There's about 4 or 5 teams, all 6-7, all fighting for that 7th spot. First off, is 3-1 enough to get in? Just getting that 9 wins, does that give us that 7th spot?
Yeah, I think it does.
I do too.
I think 3-1. I think you're going to lose to Dallas.
I actually disagree. I think we lose one of the 2 Washington games, and then Dallas will need to be one, and it'll depend. If Washington has the division locked up, they rest their starters, then we can win against Dallas. We'll see how that all plays out and all. So here's the thing. We're in the playoff chase now, okay? First half, Jalen Hurts struggles, inaccurate. The offense isn't moving. Does Nick Sirianni pull the trigger in the second half and put Minshew in there? Because, again, are you going to ride with your guy Jalen Hurts, or are you trying to make the playoffs?
Dude, I mean, the scenario you're bringing up is like exactly what I was thinking. I mean,
let's be honest. Washington's not a bad football team. I know they got some
exactly
injuries. Heineke is out now.
What was on my mind when we did the post game,
right? Of
after the Minshew game.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that exact same thing. Like, the fact that I'm a huge Hurts guy. You know that. But I think the fact that Minshew came out and showed video, real life video, here and now, not what he did with Jacksonville, that he is capable of, being successful in running this offense, makes the leash on Jalen Hurts that much shorter. I mean, to me, I think you're right. I think if the real goal of this team is to make the playoffs, yes, then there's
let me preface that. It shouldn't be. This is a growing year. This is an experience year, a learning year. But the team, the owner, the GM are making it and trying to sell to the players and to the fan base that they're trying to win. So you kind of got to look at both ways. If you want the ownership to back up what they're saying and selling, let's just say, the first half ends and we've got 3 points. We've struggled to move the ball. Washington's defense isn't bad. Like I said, I'm not sure whether Tyler Heineke will play or not. I mean, he did get hurt the last game. I think somebody else, maybe Terry McLaurin got hurt. Somebody else.
And McLaurin's got a concussion. He's in the protocol.
So, I mean, I'm having tomorrow night on Trending for Four Quarters. I got the Ref the District. It's a great Washington football team podcast group. I had them on in the off season. They're coming back on, and we're going to talk a lot more about Washington on that show and the matchup and all. So we'll get more detailed information tomorrow night on them. But say it's 17-3, 24-6, something like that at half. And the offense has just been dreadful. I think it's a curious question whether Nick Sirianni makes that move to Minshew. And even if he does, doesn't make a difference, but that's another topic.
Well, here's the deal. Like, I'm a huge Jalen Hurts guy. I am.
Absolutely.
And I want this team to give him as much of a chance as they can, to make him, give him a shot to be that guy.
Right.
The problem is with Jalen Hurts is I'm not ready to say that he is the franchise guy. And
right.
nor do I think he is. He's like, borderline, good starter. But the problem is, so it's funny because we saw this play. I'm sure everybody's seen it by now.
I was going to, at some point, try to find a way to bring that play into the conversation. But you're segueing yourself.
Justin Herbert on Sunday made a throw that I'm not sure maybe 5 quarterbacks in the league right now can throw. But the fact of the matter is when you see a talent like that, as far as talent, that's like the eye test. It just shows you, like, wow, this guy, like, and Justin Herbert, for the record, has struggled this year.
Absolutely.
Numerous times. But I'm not a stat guy either. Like, Justin Herbert could have 20 touchdowns and 19 interceptions, and I could still say with the eye test, this guy is a franchise quarterback. That's the difference. The guy, like, made a play that's just like, oh my God.
It was about a 60-yard bomb to Guyton.
And he was
pressured his face.
Going
he got
out
hit
of the,
as he was throwing it. Yeah, I mean, he just like, boom, flicked the wrist, and that ball went 60 yards. Jalen Hurts can't do that. But also, neither can Gardner Minshew.
But here's my problem. Like, this is why we're in a dilemma. Because, Scotty brought up a good point. Like, if Jalen isn't the franchise quarterback, then realistically, we do have to look for somebody else. Like, so the point of the matter is Jalen Hurts could be that, like, placeholder guy, to, wait till we do get the guy. Because like you said, I mean, you've talked about it 100 times now. I see it all the time on Twitter. I see, you've mentioned it on all of your shows. Like, Russell Wilson is definitely a franchise quarterback. Like,
absolutely.
The fact of the matter is all these people that are saying, oh, we don't want Russell Wilson. Gardner's the answer.
I don't know if Gardner's the answer at all, Alex, but so Gardner does things that Jalen Hurts doesn't. But Jalen Hurts does things that Gardner doesn't. I think
Gardner Minshew and Jalen Hurts are both similar in that they're guys that can spot start, could maybe even start.
Well, they would both be quality backups.
But they could even start. Obviously Jalen Hurts has started most of this year. Like, they could start and win. Like, Jalen has proven, like, he's a winner.
Yeah.
It's just, so you get to the question of, like, okay, do you want to have a great quarterback or do you want to have a good quarterback? That's the whole question. Like, the bottom line is in reality, there's about 8 quarterbacks that maybe are in the elite range. Other than that, it's like you have that middling pack that's like, I put like a Carson Wentz in that pack. And then you have kind of the bottom tier, and that's kind of where Jalen is at right now. Now, could Jalen get better? Absolutely, I believe he can. I think Jalen Hurts is a talent that can – I mean, listen, if Lamar Jackson did what he could do, Jalen Hurts – and I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is Lamar Jackson, but Jalen Hurts – like, everyone keeps focusing on the arm strength, and I don't see it being – as much of an issue as people are saying. I see it more being an issue with him being late on his progressions and he's late on throws. That doesn't mean he can't throw the ball. If you're late on something, it's going to appear that you don't have the strength because he's not throwing his receivers open. That's what great quarterbacks do. Like Aaron Rodgers, that throw that Tom Brady made, that wasn't a dart. That was a throw to an area that the receiver wasn't at yet, that the receiver got to, and only the receiver could get to. That's the difference. Tom Brady is a guy that doesn't necessarily have elite arm strength. Like Tom Brady in the beginning of his career was what was considered a game manager.
Right. And then he developed. Yeah, exactly.
He developed. So I don't want to hear I hear all about arm strength. It's not that. To me, it's, can Jalen Hurts become a guy that can actually read defenses and go through regressions, throw his receivers open, make his receivers better? That's the question about Jalen Hurts, not his arm strength. Like, at least that, and I'm sorry if I'm coming off like arrogant, but it's frustrating to me. I see guys like I said, Tom Brady didn't just become the GOAT. Like, it came over time. Like,
Well, we'll see. You know, I mean, let's be honest. I actually don't think the whole point of this question was, you know, will Nick Sirianni pull the trigger at halftime? I don't think he does. I think he's riding with Hurts. He's made that statement. I think he understands that the players respect and love playing for Jalen Hurts. And let's be honest, Jalen Hurts has played better in second half of games than first half of games. You know, he has that leadership quality where he rallies the troops, etc. So I don't think Nick Sirianni pulls that trigger. If that,
I hope Jalen Hurts comes out and has like a masterpiece game. I hope he comes out and has like his signature game. I know we say that his signature game was like last year against the Saints. Yeah, I hope he comes out and does betters that. Like, absolutely. I'd like to just see Jalen Hurts come out and actually prove everybody wrong. Like, I think we all want that. Nobody wants Jalen to not succeed. Let's face it.
I mean, whether we want this team to learn and make the playoffs or not, whatever, we all want the Eagles to win. We're all Eagles fans.
I would like to see. You know? I would like to see them come out and just like smash mouth football, but and Jalen just kind of tie in some passes and just work as a unit. Like, we have this offensive line that we keep bragging about. Keep using it. Like, absolutely. Use it. I mean, and Brandon Brooks, I heard, I don't know, is he coming back? Like, I heard someone
there's been talk it might happen. I mean, they need him back because, Driscoll being out now and stuff like that. We'll get into as today's practice, first practice of the week. We'll see what the practice reports say and stuff like that. And we'll get into that more as the week goes on. Real quick, because I want to wrap this show up in the next 5 or 10 minutes here, is that last night, Monday Night Football, best matchup of the week again, the Rams, Cardinals cruising this year. They were 10-2 going in season. Rams have kind of been that question mark, a dream team type build, but yet hasn't been really working out. And last night they came out. I know it was a 7-point game, 30-23, but didn't feel that close watching that game last night. It felt like the Rams were in control of that game the entire time. And Matthew Stafford was able to move the ball at will. Cooper Kupp, another huge game. Wide receiver 1 in the NFL, in my opinion, this year. Having an amazing season, Cooper Kupp. Odell finally starting to get in a rhythm with that offense. And stuff like that. So, who's really the team to beat now in the NFC? Because we say how most of the NFC is kind of bulked together. You do have 3 or 4 pretty elite teams at the top in the Cardinals, the Rams. I'll even throw the Cowboys and the Packers. Those 4 teams, any 4 of them could win. Do you think either the Rams or Cardinals made some kind of a statement last night that they are, or in the Cardinals' case, aren't the team to beat?
I think this is just me personally. I think we're missing a couple teams there. I think Tampa Bay,
that's true,
and Green Bay to me are the teams to beat. Like, I honestly, like, I love the Cardinals and I love what they're doing. I love the Rams, as far as their, dream team. They have the talent. The Rams have kind of been inconsistent. I think, to me, the 2 teams are I don't see Tom Brady being denied. Anytime Tom Brady's on the field, and I think he proved that this past Sunday, that throw that he made at, in overtime, like, he just comes in there and just commands a game. It doesn't matter. Like, and the announcer mentioned, like, he said you could pull like me or you off the street, and Tom Brady would get you the ball if you were open. Like it's just the bottom line is like you can never count that guy out. And to me, the other team, Green Bay, like they've been right there the last couple of years. I mean, they're a team. Their defense is.
They're my preseason pick to make the Super Bowl for sure.
Aaron Rodgers, like, just when you think he's down, like he has a game like he just did. Now, obviously, his toe issue is an issue. They keep bringing it up, saying, "But now is that more so like is
we're not going to put a picture of his toe up?
I have a toe issue or whatever." But no, they're the two teams. But I can't say that the Rams and Arizona aren't. I think the one thing about Arizona that's interesting and that I don't think a lot of people are even mentioning is that they have a 9-3 record, and they were without Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and Chase Edmonds. Well, Chase Edmonds missed his 4th game.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray missed 3 games.
Colt McCoy was actually, not to interrupt you, they're 10-3, not 9-3.
Okay, but
I just want to make sure everybody has got that record straight there. James Conner, who everybody thought he was washed up and wasted after last season in Pittsburgh. I mean, I think he's got 7 or 8 touchdowns now in the last 4 weeks.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. So don't lose sight of that fact, because even though they lost yesterday, you got to remember, like, Kyler is still not 100%. Like, you can tell he's not 100%, and he's still young. Like, Kyler Murray, like, is a stud. Like, he's the guy that you just watch the eye test and sooner or later he's going to win a Super Bowl. Like, so to me, Arizona, I think all 4 of those teams are in it. Yes, I think they're the 4 to beat. I think the other 2 teams like that get in, like, it's going to be.
I personally don't buy the Rams. I don't buy Matthew Stafford, and I know that's probably an unpopular opinion. Everyone will say how Matthew Stafford didn't have weapons in Detroit. I mean, he had some okay talent here or there, but you just brought up a thing with Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers, how they elevate the people around them. Matthew Stafford never did that. He never elevated anybody in his career. And this year he's got all these weapons and they keep adding more. And yet he's still, I mean, I know they played a really great game last night, but I don't know. I just don't buy the Matthew Stafford, hype that with the Rams, which is unfortunate because the Rams have literally gone all in on this season. And now, I brought up 3 or 4 teams. You added, Green Bay and Tampa to it. There are a lot of top heavy teams in this conference that it's just going to come down to weather and the matchups, et cetera, come playoff time, who advances. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, it's funny that you say that. And I think it's easy to say that about Matthew Stafford, but let's face it, this is his first year in a new offense. So you can't discount that. You also lost Robert Woods. Now, I know you got OBJ, so it's almost kind of like a wash, but Robert Woods is a guy that's so underrated.
Robert Woods 2 years ago was ranked higher than Cooper Kupp.
Robert
even last
Woods
year,
is a guy, and he's the guy that kind of goes in and does the dirty work. Like Cooper Kupp is your, kind of more of your outside guy, and catches a lot of deep balls. Robert Woods is like, your slant guy going over the middle, and catches everything. Like, let's face it, the guy's got hands of, it's like he has glue in his hands. Like, the ball comes there, and
I'm thinking of that scene from The Replacements when the wide receiver couldn't catch anything, they just slapped glue on his hand.
And I'm not
out there.
No, and that's exactly it. And I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying that. Just say that the Rams don't do well this year. Can you necessarily bash Stafford and say he won't do well next? Like, to me, you got to at least
how many years has Matthew Stafford been in the NFL?
Okay,
so, but eventually you have to realize that a guy he's really good, but maybe he's not a uber elite top 5 guy. Well, some people were ranking him in the top 5 this year because he was going to the Rams and going to have all this talent. And I just didn't buy it then, and I still don't buy it now.
Well, he did look elite yesterday. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns, no picks, 287 yards. And the difference is, if you look at the last 2 games that the Rams have won, Sean McVay has actually went more back to the running game.
Absolutely. He had a lot of exactly last night.
An issue why a lot of teams struggle, even with great passers. If you don't run the football and you become one-dimensional in this NFL, it's a wrap. Like,
absolutely.
You have to – the game plan has to dictate, the style of play that you're going to play. especially knowing your opponent too. The Cardinals were bad against the run. If the Cardinals, their worst part of their defense was their rush defense. You had to run the football. Now I know you only had Sony Michel because Darrell Henderson's been out too. Like there's another so a lot of teams are facing injuries.
Yeah, every team's got injuries at this point of the season. Yeah,
but I'm just making a point the point I was making with Arizona was they've done well with like a lot of their superstars out. Like even think about it, they didn't get Zach Ertz until what, week 7 or 8?
Yeah. So that's fair.
I mean,
Arizona, hey, in the words of Mark Zumoff, hold on, NFL fans, we're coming in for a landing. The final 4 weeks of the NFL are going to be red hot. As long as there's no more COVID outbreaks, we'll just say that, because again, 37 guys. I really hope that Quez Watkins and Huntley, are the only 2 cases for the Eagles, because we don't need that problem. But we got so much more football talk all week long, because, like I said, tomorrow specifically, we got the Brits Guide for the NFL in the morning, and then for Trending for 4 Quarters at night, I've got the Ref the District podcast coming on to focus in on the Washington football team. So much content coming this week on the show, because even though I'm in the mountains, still keep working every single day here on DSM Media. Hey, Jason, thank you very much for coming on today. Much appreciated. Can't wait to do it again tomorrow. Trending the AM and all shows on DSM Media, brought to you by Manscaped, leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT in below-the-waist maintenance. Check them out, manscaped.com. Promo code TRENDING, 20% off and free shipping at checkout with that code. Jason, it's been a blast. Another great morning. Stay tapped into DSM Media, everybody, and we'll talk later.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.